Hello everyone and welcome to Marion's World. I have a really packed in video for you today and I'm back with my coat, actually finishing the front corner, which is very exciting. I feel I've done such a lot these past few weeks. And I hope you'll watch to the end because there's a couple of pieces of exciting news for the channel too. One of which is the results of the poll that I've been running and that finished at the end of July. And another bit of exciting news that I think you'll be interested in. So thanks for watching in advance, and I'll just turn you over to Marion with the lovely coat embroidery. It's looking super lovely. I'm set up to do some more silk embroidery, and so I've got my supplies waiting. I've got my ink tense paints because I'll be painting up mainly white silk ribbon that I am embroidering with. So I've got some 7mm silk ribbon here along with 4mm and 2mm. Along with that I've got some green sewing cotton. That's what I'm going to use to sew things down with. And my scissors, a paintbrush, which is a good brush with a good point. I've got my ring light here. This is what I use to light my videos. I don't have any fancy lights. I just have my Lowery embroidery stand that I have had since well before I started the channel. It has my hoop holder on, but of course while I'm working on my coat I'm not using my hoop at all, so it's just flat on my work table. And the other thing I've got is this reel of sari silk, but I've actually just unrolled some of it to get to this green colour. So I'll just turn the camera onto my embroidery, thread my needle up, and I'll get right on with it. I really wanted the violets to be more. I've hidden some of them as I've stitched the bluebells in. So I'm going to lay in some stems first, then embroider the violets. And then if this time I want to put some other things through here and finish off with something at the top. And I've got two needles here. I've just got a normal sharp pointed sewing needle that I'm going to use for the thread, and I've got a needle with a sharp point and a long eye so that I can thread my silk ribbon through. I'm going to start off with this bit of yellow 2mm silk ribbon. So I'm going to get that threaded in my needle and also thread up some cotton because I'll be couching the stems. This little stem here I've already laid in. I'm going to put a big leaf on there, so I'm going to start somewhere up here, maybe just there. And I'm going to take another stem out and up here because the way that dog violets grow, they have a cluster of leaves in the bottom, which is what I've got here, and then they send out long stems with leaves and flowers coming out from it, and so I need another nice stem going up. I'm just going to pull my needle with the sewing cotton in preparation for couching down the ribbon. I'll just put my needle there. I'm going to twist the ribbon just with my fingers so I can get a lovely roll, and that'll make for a very nice stem. Once it's rolled, you just have to sort of get it going with your finger and thumb, and then I just sort of wet my finger and thumb. That makes it easier. And as soon as you've got a nice tight roll that looks nice, you can hold it down and then move it wherever you like, and then just couch it down with a little stitch. So I'm couching that down, and I'm going to make my stitches about 1 centimetre apart. And I can wander my little stem up and down wherever I like. I'm going to curve it up here. It's just a tiny stitch right over the top of my bluebell leaves. Keep pulling my ribbon so it's nice and a smooth line. And I think I'll take that to go around. Sometimes you just have to adjust things in your fingers. You don't need a drawn line, you just need to put a curve in and just keep looking at it and adjusting it as you go. I'm going to pull it down to put a leaf on there, send it down and then come back. So I'll send that there and pull that in as a little junction, and then I'll take my ribbon down to finish that off, put another couching stitch over, and I can carry on laying my stems in, but just doing exactly the same. So I'll maybe curl it round here a bit. Every time I take my ribbon to the back, I'm going to just over sew the end with my sewing cotton to secure the tail. I'd sometimes put a knot on as well, and I do the tail as well. That's the main thing. So I can cut those two off. I added another couple of stems here to do a little bit of violet, or even just the leaves coming through. But before I go on to the leaves, I'm just going to touch them with a little bit of colour. So I'm going to bring in my paints and my brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of water, and really the colour of that isn't too bad at all. I just want to flush it a little bit of this red down at the bottom by just picking up a little bit of that on my brush and just dropping it onto the silk, and it'll just suck off my needle. I said needle before, I meant the brush, like that. So I'm just going to just put water on there to just get that pulled through. I'm happy with that. I don't think I need to do anything else. And the same again at this bit here. Just put a little bit of pink flush coming onto that stem. I know that's making it more camouflaged on my coat, but it's more about the correct colour. Don't be frightened about putting colour on your silk ribbon. If you use a light touch, it really will just colour the ribbon itself without affecting your underlying work. Now, as you can see, I already completed some leaves, and they're just about the perfect size. I'm going to do some small ones as well as another couple of big ones. So to do them, I've used this sari silk, which is a lovely big size. I just end up cutting a piece off. This might be, yeah, about 2.5 inches worth. And I'm going to make my leaf out of that by folding and stitching and manipulating that into the shape of a leaf. And I'm going to do a couple of more big ones, one over there, and I might use this bit of 7mm ribbon as well to make some smaller leaves. Actually, I did those leaves and I'd forgotten to press record on the camera, so I'm going to show you the big leaf over here. So I've got my piece of green silk, and so I start off with sort of what approaches the right shape. So I'm going to just turn my edges in like that, and now I've actually got a raw point here which I don't like, so what I end up doing is I turn one edge in and then I fold that edge down, but I still end up with the same shape. So I've actually got the point of the leaf there already, and I'm going to put that point where I think I want the leaf to end, and I'm going to just send it here. Okay, so there's the point of my leaf. And so I can come up halfway up the leaf and I'll just hem it down with tiny stitches. It actually doesn't bother me if they get seen, but I'm just going to make them small because I'm using quite a pale colour here. So I'll hem right down to the point. I'm not bothered what's going on with the rest of it. Turn round so I can just keep a hold of everything. Okay, and I'll just check that it's doing sort of about a 90 degrees in the end. Maybe you want a little bit less than 90, but I'll just go with where it is now. And I'll hem halfway up there. And the bigger the leaf, the more you want to hem up the side of the ribbon. So at the moment I've got all this ribbon hanging, but I've got a point of a leaf. And so now is when I start manipulating this into a leaf. So I can pull the excess of the fabric here. So I've got a big excess of fabric, and if I hold one end flat and I fold the excess over, there's my middle vein of the leaf. And so I'm just going to go straight over to there, and I'm going to hem that down. I usually either just do straight stitches or double running stitch, because I want to keep heading back to where I start from all the time. So I get a hold of that fold, got my needle ready, make sure the fold is heading where I want it to head. Just do that again, hold it together, and I'm going to just running stitch down to the point and running stitch back up, so I'm headed back up to where I started from all the time. So now my leaf is starting to take shape, so I can come back to here and I can pull this round and make the next fold is going to make another leaf vein. And on violets, the leaf veins sort of all head up to the same point really, and so I can just hold that little one in, running stitch out to the edge, and then turn round and running stitch back up, heading back to the middle again. All my veins are going to head that way. And I'll do the other side, so I'll do the whole leaf as one. It doesn't matter what's happening up here. I'll just pull that next vein in. There it is. So again, up I come with my needle, and I'm running stitch out to the edge, turn round and running stitch back to where I started from. You could do back stitch, could do stem stitch. I've done both, but it just double running stitch means I end up back where I started, and so it's easy to keep going out and in again. So now it sort of starts to get a bit tricky, but I can sort of look at where I am and think, is this the size I want, or do I want to go further out, or do I want to start pulling the leaf in? I'm going to start pulling the leaf in a little bit, so I'm going to just manipulate that fold and just put it where I want it to be. So I'll just put it there. I'll go out to the side, go back out to where I finished from, and I'll hem that bit in, pulling it round, stitching it down. And do I need another fold there? Probably. So I can just fold. There it is, there's the fold, stitch it down, back out again. And it really is just as free form as doing that, and all of a sudden you will have a leaf shape. I've got all this fabric waiting, and maybe actually I want to start and finish it off. So I'll turn round so I can see my leaf the right way round, and I can start to I'll just put my needle there. I can start to just fold this in, fold my edges under. Because it's silk ribbon, it's going to just fold under nicely. If you have a lot of excess, definitely occasionally I cut it off. Quite often I just keep folding all the time, taking little tiny stitches. I've got the nice heart-shaped leaf coming around here, and I just look at what's happening. Fold it under, every stitch you make is holding it in more, and now I've only got this little bit to do, so I can take that right the way down so I can get in that heart shape, put a stitch in and another one just to secure it, and then I've only got this bit. So I tuck it under, Now I've left this pale cotton in so that you can see my stitches. If you didn't want the stitches to be visible, you just use a matching thread. But for me, I'm quite happy that the stitches get seen. It's part of what I'm doing. Plus, violets' main ribs of their leaves quite often look quite pale, and so that's another reason for using the pale thread. and I can, even though I don't have a fold up here, I can just stitch another rib anyway. I can stitch another vein, and then I'll end up at the top. Down I go. And in that way you can just make a little leaf out of a rectangle of ribbon. So while I've got my thread in the needle, I'm just going to go straight over to this little heart shape, and I'm going to put some straight stitches in to enhance the fact that it's a little heart-shaped leaf too. And I'll finish all my leaves off and then come back with the actual flowers. I'm ready putting on the violets, and I'm starting with the 4mm silk ribbon, and I've attached it to my needle in exactly the same way by putting the point through the end of the ribbon itself, so I don't have a tail. I'll put one over here so that it's a bit less involved with everything else. So I'll come up in the middle. I'm going to just make sure my ribbon is the way round that I'd like it to be, and just smooth it out there. And the two top petals are going to be about 1 centimetre long, and I'm going to use the ribbon stitch to make them. So I'm going to poke my needle through the centre of the ribbon, and I'm going to pull that through until I've got a point. Just let it roll gently in and make the pointed petal. Back to the middle. I'm going to do another stitch going out in the same way. And these are not evenly sorted out around like a blossom. The two top petals head upwards, the two side petals are horizontal, and then there's a great big petal at the bottom. So this next petal is going to go up alongside the first one. I'll head for the same length. Hold everything in till I get that point. And then back to the middle again. I'm going to attempt to leave a little bit of an opening in the middle of the flower because I'm going to do embroidery. And I'm going to head the two side petals outwards on a sort of a horizontal-ish sort of a direction. And now I'm going to knot that off on the back because I'll come back with the 7mm ribbon to do the big bottom petal. So I'm just going to put a little overhand knot in here and then leave a tail that I can stitch down when I'm doing the finishing embroidery. And I'm going to sprinkle some more through, just like that, the little 4 petals all over. I've now got my 7mm ribbon in the needle, and I'm going to finish these flowers off. So I'm going to come right up in the middle, leaving a little gap through quite a bit of fabric there. So once I've come up, I want this petal to look big and sort of, you know, a bit 3D. So I'm just going to get my ribbon just lying nicely, and I just want it to not be pulled tight to the fabric of my coat. And I'm going to stitch right down into the middle here, and I'm going to attempt to keep that petal nicely shaped. As I go through, just going to keep a hold of this one there and just nicely bring this to a little point. And there we have it. It's a nice little heart-shaped bottom petal. I do them all. I've got 2 little flowers waiting to be finished off. So I'll just come up, make sure my ribbon is nicely lying as nicely as I can. So I'll just do that. Find out where the bottom wants to be and poke my needle right through it. And pull this down until I get my lovely bottom point again, making sure that my petal is just lying how I'd like it to lie there. And just lie it in, and there it is. Really lovely violet shapes. I'm going to put the rest of them in and come back with my paints. I'm getting a nice variation of colour, but within the same, colour palette. So I'm going to use 2 of these colours from my Inktense pan. There's this pinky colour, which is a bit too pink. I did use it before on them and decided it wasn't quite right, but I'll show you it here. Actually, I think it's looking all right on there because I've got some of this colour already on my brush. So it's these 2 colours. I'm sort of mixing them together on my brush. And I'm making sure I've got enough water without it being soaking. There, you can probably see the difference there between the 2 colours. That's the purpley one, that's the pinky one. I'm sort of just mixing them together as I put them down. And so the top 4 petals, I'm making quite the deep colour. And then the bottom petal, mainly using this purpley one, and I'm starting right at the tip that I want the darkest. And I get so far up, and then I just have water on my brush, and I water the rest of the petal so that the colour is just going to go up through it and fade out. Because I don't want it dark all the way up. I want to put a bit of embroidery in there too. Let's do this one here. So I put the darkest colour on the 4 top petals. Pick up a bit of the pinky one. And then for the bottom petal, I'm going to put both colours on my brush. Start at the bottom, get halfway up, and change to just water. And let that colour fade out. If I need to put another dot on, then I do that, like that. And so that will leave them ready for embroidery once they have dried. And remember, they will be drying lighter than I'm making them. If you haven't got a brush like I've got that's big with a fine tip, use a small brush. But the reason I use this one is because the body of the brush manages to keep a lot of water there, while the fine tip lets me be precise. Oh, they look really pretty. Look at that. It's gorgeous. They're called dog violets because it's to differentiate them from sweet violets. So sweet violets are the scented ones. Dog violets don't have a scent. And in the Middle Ages, anything with the prefix dog usually means it's inferior in some way. So dog violets don't have the scent that sweet violets do. Dog's mercury is, well, I think garden mercury is edible, and dog's mercury isn't. Dog mercury isn't edible. So it's nearly always sort of differentiating between something that's considered better value and then something that's not as good value. But value here not meaning money, meaning either scent or edible or taste or something like that. Bit of water on that one. That little grouping is starting to look super gorgeous. I'll do the others and come back with some stitching. I'm finishing the violets with a little bit of embroidery, and I've just found a single strand of white embroidery cotton in my tangle. Oh, actually I need a yellow as well, so I might as well get that at the same time. Just take that bit out, that'll do me. And I'm going to put just some lines onto the bottom petal in particular, just to signify the middle, and then I'll finish with a little French knot at the top with the yellow. So let me see, I'll do this one here. Really there should be black lines as well, but I think I've just done them a bit small for doing all of that, so I'm just going to put some straight lines, just straight stitches up into the middle, maybe 4 or 5, particularly onto the bottom petal. Just go halfway, maybe a third of the way up each petal. Just going to put a single line. I think that's okay, and I'm going to put a yellow knot there, but I'll just use my sewing cotton to tack down the ends of the ribbons as I go. So it'll just take me a little minute to do each one, because I'll finish off all the ribbons while I put these white lines in. I might as well finish that one off in its entirety so you can see how I'll be leaving it, and then I'll finish them all off at the same time. I'll put 2 strands, I think I will. 2 strands in my needle. And just come straight up the middle. I'm going to put a single wrap French knot. Go straight back down. And it is so small, I don't know whether it's worth it, but I'll be doing it to them all. Hope you can notice it there. I don't really want it to be any bigger, but to me it finishes that off and it's worth doing. I feel I'm on the home straight now with this front corner, and I've added some celandines in, some fully open ones and some half open ones, and I've already painted them up, and I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do either a full open one or a half open one in this little corner here. I'm going to start off, I've got 6 strands of stranded cotton, and it is this lovely golden yellow. And I'm just going to do, for this open one, I'm just going to do some single wrap French knots, always remembering to make the knot at the fabric. So up, wrap around your needle. I'm only doing it once, and I would say that this is identical to how I would do a daisy. I would just choose to do the daisy, probably still with a yellow middle, but with white ribbon, and probably just with a narrower ribbon than I'm going to use for the celandines. So I'm actually going to use 4mm ribbon for these celandine flowers, and I think I'd use 2mm if I was going to do a daisy. In fact, I've got a daisy ribbon tutorial, and there's also another tutorial I'm going to link you to. I'll put the video up so that you can go and see it, because I'm going to do a bee on the front of the coat, but I've already done a tutorial for a stump work bee in last year's stitch journal, and so I'm going to link that in here now, because I don't feel I need to go through that again, because I'm going to use the exact same method to do the bee for the front of the coat. So I've got a nice little sort of a boss of golden French knots there. And for the half open flower, which I'm going to put here, I think, I'm going to do sort of half of what I've just done there, thinking about where the petals will be going. So I'm still going to do my single wrap French knots, but I'll maybe just do maybe 4 or 5, I think I've been doing. Make sort of a crescent shape. Celandines are so pretty, but they do take over if you let them. So really lovely in the countryside though. I've got these 2 colours of polyester ribbon. This is quite a good colour, but it's more like the colour of the middles. If I put it down there, you can see what I mean. So it's not really any good to me, but the width is good. It's 4mm. I'm putting that to one side. And then I've got this creamy colour, which obviously I can paint down. Now this is one instance where I would say this is perfectly an example of why it's good to paint after the embroidery. I almost painted up a whole length of ribbon in a lemon yellow, but you'll see why I didn't when I've done this bit of embroidery. So I've got a length of that cream in my needle, attached just the same at the top, and I'm going to do my first open flower first. I'm going to come up just within those French knots, and I'm just making ribbon stitches all the way around of the size that I want, which is maybe 1 centimetre. When I pull my needle down, instead of pulling it to a point, I'm going to stop when the petal looks a bit blunt. So I don't want a pointed leaf shape. And I'm going to come round all the way. You don't really have to count them or anything. Celandines have petals, sometimes as few as 7, sometimes as many as 12. They can really vary. So whatever many you're going to put in, it'll be right. You don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to go all the way around here, and every time my petal looks like it's a blunt end, I'm going to stop. You can see how easy this is to do. I'll just go around again, lay in another layer until I'm happy with the way it looks. So there's a celandine flower waiting to be painted, and because it's sort of detached entirely, I'm going to just put a ribbon stalk in, and I might as well just use what I've got in my needle. I'm just going to twist it up and I'll hold it in place. I take my needle down and I can couch that down later on. So I'm going to come up the back of it and I'm going to lay the long stitches in just as if I was going to go all the way round. I hope you can still see. The sun's come round and it's coming straight in my workroom now. So it's a good job I'm on this final piece really. Got a bit to do off camera, but then it'll be finished. So I'm going to do half of my flower like that. So to make this look like it's cupped and that you're seeing it from the side, I'm going to come down to just below this half flower middle, and I'm going to start going out to the side and a little bit upwards, still making the petals non-pointy, and then I'll come a bit further down away from the middle and come up towards it as if I'm seeing half open flower. I'm just going to take that petal down through the French knots, and then the next one comes in from the side, go back to the bottom there, put another one on here, can half cover up the French knots, and then I'll put one more petal in. I'll just come in underneath the stitch I've just put on and I'll head out to the side, and I'll just come over the top of the first petal I put down. And if I pull that one through, I've sort of now got a flower that I'm looking at from the side, and I'm going to give this a stalk in the same way that I did that one by just twisting my ribbon. I'm going to lead it under the bluebell leaf and then straight down into the bottom there. And I'll just couch these two down and get my paints, and I'll be back to paint them. Now this is why that it's going to be nicer to paint afterwards than just paint this whole ribbon lemon yellow or use a lemon yellow ribbon in the first place. So the first thing I want to do is make the two stems a proper emerald green, because that's what they're like. So I can just touch it coming through there, and this one. So that's the first thing. Next is that I know that there's quite often green right around these yellow stamens in the middle, so I'm just going to wipe my brush off round there, and also just do it just round the edge. I'm just putting the tip of the brush in, and yes, I could do this with thread just as easily, but the ribbon is lovely to paint, so that's immediately making a difference. The next thing I know is that there's usually a darkish mark right at the base of the petals. And I'm going to use and pick up a bit of this yellow ochre. Don't want it very dark, but that is the colour that I want. And I'm just going to touch each petal going round with this yellow, brownish yellow. And on the half open flower I can do it on the back petals, and I can do it at the base of the front ones. And now I'm ready to put the yellow. I used a combination of these two yellows. This is a greeny yellow, this is more of a golden yellow. Both together are working well for me, so I'm just picking it up. Oh, the sun might be getting in the way now. I touch the yellow to the end and stop just short of that dark mark that I've put on. And if I'd used lemon ribbon, I might have been able to put the dark mark on, but if I'd just painted it all in, I wouldn't have got this variation. I hope this is going to pick up. I've got a feeling the camera might not show it because of the sunshine. And I'll do the same with this little half open flower here. A bit of lemon and a bit of golden. Start at the tip and stop halfway down. Now then, I think I'm finished with this flower embroidery. I have one more thing that I'd like to put on, but I'm just going to put a link to the video I did last year of a stumpwork bee, because I'm going to actually put a bee in here somewhere, and I'm going to go and do that before I show you the final way of what it looks like. But so far I'm really happy with it, but I'll just put my bee on first. Well, I think I'm declaring that the front corner of my coat is finished. I'm really happy with this spring corner. The bluebells, violets, celandines, primroses, they all look gorgeous. I've added a bee to the top. It's the garden bumblebee, and I thought it was an appropriate one for the front of my coat. I think the celandines have worked really well indeed. It's really difficult to get a full view of the hem because it's so huge. So I've got it draped on the back of my settee. Still some work on summer, I think, before there's quite a big gap before you find the snowdrop finish. Well, here it is, and I really hope you've enjoyed seeing that. It was really hard to get the whole thing in one shot because the hemline is so huge, but I'm super happy with it, and it feels like quite a milestone to have finished the whole front corner and to be moving onto another little piece. And I already know what I'm going to be doing on it. I know from the comments that I get that you're really enjoying seeing how the coat is coming along, and I must admit I can hardly stop stitching on it, so I'm really enjoying myself doing it. I always knew right from the beginning what I wanted to do, but seeing it come together is something really special for me, so I'm over the moon. Now to channel news, and I've got a couple of lovely pieces of news, but also I'm just going to start off with a sad piece of news. And I'm afraid that my poor old cat Misty, who was 24 years old, nearly 25, sadly passed away a few weeks ago. And we knew her time was short. In fact, if you've been on my channel before, you'll have heard me say that she's been to the vet, or she was getting frail, or we didn't think she was going to see Christmas. The fact that she's been with us for half of this year, extra to what we thought, has been lovely, and she is being an absolute miss. It'll be the first time in over 44 years or something like that that there's been no pet in this house, and so the house does seem very quiet without her, because even though she was old and she wasn't playing around in the same way as a young kitten would, her presence was definitely felt. And we'd had her 22 years, so she is a big miss already. So going from something that is sad, and Luke and I have found it a bit difficult, I'm going to go to some lovely channel news. And the first one is to announce that the winner of the poll for the project that I should concentrate on next, it may come as no surprise to you, that it is the Yell cardigan. And so it wasn't the runaway winner that the coat was last year, but it was in the front from the first day and it never relinquished the lead. And so the cardigan has won. Very close behind it was the flower embroidery quilt, and so that'll be the second thing that I will try and do once I get the Yell cardigan finished. And then trailing in near to each other were both the lily shawl and then lastly the botanicals dress. And so I will be working on this straight away. I won't be ignoring the coat. I'll definitely be working on the coat, but I will hopefully bring you something to do with the knitting, or I'll be showing you my progress next week. So I'm not sure whether it'll be coat again or just cardigan, or I'm not sure, but you'll see what progress I've made already, because like last year and the year before, as soon as I knew what was winning, I just got stuck in and got on with it. And so I'll do that with this too. So with any luck, I'll be wearing it very soon. I have got an interesting technique to show you to do with the band, the neckband. And so I'm hoping that won't be next week, but I will hope to bring you a really interesting neckband tutorial in a few weeks' time maybe. So that's the first lovely bit of channel news out of the way. The second one is, you'll see that I'm wearing my butterfly brooch. I did this last year on the channel. I had lots of interest in it. Lots of people asked me whether I was going to make a pattern or do a workshop or anything like that. Well, I'm pleased to announce that I am doing my very first in-person workshops at the end of September, and I'll be leading workshops over. There are 2 days of workshops. It's one weekend, and I'll be doing either this butterfly, which is an orange tip butterfly, but I've also done 2 different ones as well. So the first one is a speckled wood butterfly, and the third one is a small elephant hawk moth, which that is their colour. They are bright pink and lime green. And again, I've done their underwings. So the workshops are on the 27th and the 28th of September, the Saturday and Sunday. And they're at Lanchester Community Centre, which is 8 miles west of Durham in Northern England. They're being hosted by a lady called Elaine at Lanchester Community Centre, and she is who is organising them, and she approached me about running the workshops. I'm providing everything else, but Elaine is organising it. So if you are interested and you would like to go to one of the workshops, so I'm not sure at the moment whether I'm just doing moths on the brooches on the Saturday, or I'm doing 2 separate sessions. It's to be decided yet. But the Saturday one is almost fully booked already. So if you're interested in coming along to my very first in-person workshop, you need to message me via either Instagram or via the shop email, and then I can pass you Elaine's number on, and you can contact her and arrange for her to book onto the course. So it's 10 till 4:30 on each day, and you can call her, and if you want to book in, you can book in, and then I'll be happy to see you on either of those days, and you can make one of my own patterns, so one of these beautiful brooches, and I'll have kits there. I've done so much work already just to get these going. So I'll have all the supplies ready, and if you want to make one on the day and then buy a different a kit to take home to do, there'll be plenty there and you'll be able to do that. So it's quite exciting. Well, it's this for me anyway. That's just quite a big step, because I'm just usually me here on my own, stitching away and only talking to you via the medium of the camera instead of talking in real life. But I'm sure I'll manage. Anybody who knows me will say that I wouldn't stop talking once I get going. Somebody asked me, did I talk to myself if I wasn't even filming? And yes, quite often I do. And the comments I've been getting about my lovely coat, they're just beautiful, and thank you so much. I hope that I show you that you can make things without having a pattern, without even knowing what you're going to be doing when you start, because you can sit down and work it out once you get going. It's not as difficult as I hope I don't make it seem that it's more difficult than it really is. You just can sit down and start something. With that, I'm just going to say thank you very much, everyone, and please press the like button, subscribe to my channel if you want to see what happens with the yellow cardigan, if you want to see what the next bit is going onto my coat is going to be, because all of that will be coming up. Thanks a lot, and I do apologise for how long this video is. I just tried to cut it down as much as I could, but in the end I've packed quite a lot in. Bye everyone, and thank you so much.